സാൻ നമുക്ക് സെഷൻ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്താലോ?
Okay, Mr.
സുബിൻ റെഡി അല്ലേ?
Yes.
Okay. Just a minute.
Mic mute.
Am I audible?
Yes, Mr.
Respected Dean R&D Dr. Anishin Raj, HOD CSE, and Mr. Ramal Austin sir, other heads of departments, faculty members, and staff members, and speaker Mr. Subin Sibi, and my dear students. Today we are gathered here to know about the field of open source softwares. Then this webinar is actually organized by the VJCET cell of VJCET. This cell is actually part of IC4 Trivandrum. So my duty is to welcome you all this webinar. First of all, I welcome our Dean R&D, Dr. Anishin Raj, to this webinar. Then I welcome our heads of department, Mr. Ramal Austin sir. Then I welcome all faculty members and staff members to this gathering. Then I welcome the key speaker of this function, Mr. Subin Sibi, to this function. Then I welcome all the student coordinators, especially San, Baby Francis, and Soil Sunny, to this webinar. Then last, I welcome all students to this program. Then I call upon Mr. San, Baby Francis, the student coordinator of this event, for introducing the speaker, Mr. Subin Sibi. San, please.
Thank you, Ms. So before beginning the session, let me take a moment to introduce the speaker, Mr. Subin Sibi. So Subin Chetan is a recent graduate. He completed his BTech in 2021 from Vidya Academy of Science and Technology in Computer Science and Engineering. He is currently a software engineer at Big Binary. But besides that, Subin Chetan is a person who is really passionate about open source. He came across this idea of open source at a very young age when he was introduced to the Linux operating system by one of his uncles. And ever since then, he has been a part of various open source communities and has contributed a lot to various open source projects. He has contributed to the Varnam project as well as various projects of the Swadhantra Malayalam computing. In fact, one of his recent projects called the Ma Wordle has become very popular right now. And I highly recommend everyone to try it out, his version of the game. Besides that, he is a really wonderful speaker. He has delivered talks in various conferences, including the Debian Developer Conference and various others. So I think we are really lucky to have a speaker like him today. So on behalf of everyone, the entire student community and faculty, let me invite Mr. Subin Sibi to this function, and let me invite him to preside over this function. Thank you.
Yeah, so really big thanks to San for that wonderful introduction. So hello everyone, thank you for having me. So I guess I'm going to share my screen now. And yes, I hope my screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So hello everyone, my name is Subin. I like to designate myself as a hacker or a maker. in the sense that I like to make things, I like to hack on things. That's what I primarily like. I've been coding since for a long time now. I started coding when I was at age 11. So that was like in 2011 at the time. So I got into coding, the hacking and making and stuff, thanks to Linux, Ubuntu, which was adopted in every school in Kerala right now. I volunteer at Swadhantra Malayalam Computing. So SMC is a language computing community for increasing the support of Malayalam in computers, desktops, etc., etc. I also volunteer at KDE. It's a international software community, and occasionally I contribute to Wikipedia as well. If you would like to check out my projects, as my link, you can check all my projects there. So I've been working on a lot of things, and so there are many projects available for myself. So the latest one being Model, as Ant pointed out, and there are also, I mostly work on Malayalam related things. So these are some of the recent apps that I built. So if you would like to check it out, you can surely do it at this link. If you would like to contact me, I am at Twitter, GitHub, Mastodon, and many other social profiles. So I'm going to here to talk to you a brief introduction on what is free software, what is open source, what is, I like to call it Swadhantra software because that's the correct term for it. Okay, so free software, what does it mean? What does the word free mean? It doesn't mean in the sense that it is something like in a monetary way. It is not in, it's just not as in a free beer or free muttai or something. It's not that free. The word free in free software stands for free speech or freedom. And that's why I like to call this word Swadhantra software. Instead of calling it free software, I would call it Swadhantra software because Malayalam has a really good word to differentiate it between Saujanyam and Swadhantrayam. That's the difference, you know. English only has one word for it, free, meaning both Saujanyam or Swadhantra. So that's what Swadhantra software is. It's for freedom. And mostly you would be aware of these things called freeware. So freeware is not equal to free software. Freeware meaning examples like WinRAR software or softwares like that will allow you to download the software for free, like in price, but that's not exactly need to be a Swadhantra software. Okay. The opposite of Swadhantra software that you would call is proprietary software, like the software that is non-free, that is not free, like free as in freedom, it would be proprietary software. So let me go into the very basics of things. How does a computer work? A computer works by getting an instruction. The user would ask the computer to do that instruction. The computer would do it. So let's say, please read this file, please read this, display the text on it, and the computer would give the output. So I ask the computer to open an image, and the computer will show me the image. That's it. That's basically how computers work. So who gives this instruction to your computer? It's you, right? You are the person who is sitting in front of the computer. You would be obviously the person to give the instructions, right? Or is there someone else who really actually gives instructions to your computer? So in this case, there is the possibility of you giving instructions, and there can be another person, like even the software that you use, whoever made that software will also have the ability to control it. There will be a backdoor. So in this instance, this is Microsoft or a Windows operating system. There would be the Microsoft Corporation or the Windows operating system handling the computer for you. And in the case of Apple, for example, you can either give your instructions or the computer will obey the instructions from the backdoor or whoever made that software. That is possible in the current scenario. So who really gives instructions to your computer? Either the users control the program, meaning the users, you, would control the software, or the program will control the users. So which would be the thing that you want to do? Either you can control the software or the program will control the user. So whoever that's writing the software, so whoever that owns the software will have the control over whatever that user is doing, right? So who really gives instruction to your computer? Whoever that makes the software will also have the ability to control the users. The best scenario that we have seen, this is Instagram or Facebook, any of those kind of apps. So those kind of apps can have recommendation algorithms that can cater to maybe like propaganda or like they can control your thoughts by ads or anything like that. So whoever makes the software has a great power in controlling their users. That's the current scenario. So these kind of softwares cannot be free because it doesn't give you the freedom, right? The users doesn't get the freedom. And that's why the whole concept of Swadhantra software or free software comes into point. And to understand this, a software would be said to be Swadhantra software or free software if it based on 4 conditions. So there are 4 criteria for a software to be free or Swadhantra. And since I guess you are all computer science graduates or computer science engineers in the making or would know things, computer counts everything from 0. So in an array, the first item would be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So actually this whole length is actually 4 freedoms, but we will start from freedom 0. So what is the first freedom, meaning the freedom 0? First freedom, the first criteria for a software to become free is the ability to run it. So if I have a software, I should be able to install it in 500 computers maybe. That is the first freedom, run the software. What's the second freedom or freedom 1? The second freedom would be to change the software. As in, if I have a software, then I should be able to change some parts of it. So maybe like if there is this, let's see, this browser, for example. So this is a browser, this is a web page. If I want to be able to change something on this button or something like that, I should be able to do that. So that's the freedom 1. So how is a software made? A software will have a background source code. There would be a source code, and the compiler would compile that source code into an executable, like an executable software. So there would be the source code. So how can you change a software? You can change the software by digging through the source code. You can change this hello world to something else, and the output will be different. So that's how you can change a software. You would need the access to the source code of that program. The next freedom, that is the third freedom, meaning freedom 2, is to redistribute the software. So if I have a copy of a software, I should be able to give it to someone else. I should be able to copy it to someone else. I should be able to copy and distribute it to someone else if I want to. I can share it to my friends, to my class, to my peers. Anyway, I have to redistribute it as much as I want. So people can benefit from the same source code, and from this software, people who need the software will be able to benefit from it. So it's like in a sharing kind of way. The next freedom, the last freedom, the criteria is freedom, the fourth freedom, which is freedom 3 in the case of array index. It is to redistribute the software with changes. So I have the source code. If I have the source code, I can change it. Then I should be able to redistribute it and redistribute with that changes to many people. So if I make a new modifications to a system, software, then that can change, can be made available to everyone else. So why does this make sense? Because sometimes a software can be made deprecated, like removed or maybe pulled in support from a company or a developer. In that case, if we have the source code, we can always support that software for many years. So that's another additional goal of free softwares. And if you're not a programmer who doesn't understand the source code, then of course you can hire someone to modify the source code for you. If you can't understand source code, you can obviously hire some your friends who are maybe programmers or a software consultancy company or something. You can obviously hire them to change the software as you want to. So now you have either the program controls the users or the users can control the program. So if you have the access to the source code, you will have the control over the program. If you have the access to the software in its full form, you will be the one who will be controlling the program, not anyone else. And you wouldn't get the situations where the computer restricts you to do something because you bought your computer with your own money. You bought your software with your own money. You should be able to modify the software, right? You should be able to access the parts of the software, right? There shouldn't be any forbidden things on stuff that you bought with your hard-earned money. And situations like this, like a software that forces you to do things like this. So in this scenario, for example, this will downgrade your system, as in a software that's forcing you to do something. So in this case, the software is downgrading as in either you will be forced to press the yes button. Basically, this thing is showing this will downgrade the system, right? But if you click no, that means the internet usage won't work anymore. So basically, whoever that is making the software makes you to force to do things. You, the user, is not at a will's end to have your own control of the software. So whoever that's making the software has the power to do something. So that's another question. Is software kind of like drugs maybe? So this is something that was introduced in, that's been saying for some time. So recently there was this documentary, The Social Dilemma, about Instagram and Facebook. So is it like drugs? Is it like hacking you into mind? But in this scenario, I'm talking about is that so when you start from school, when you are in first grade or second grade, you will be introduced to software, right? You will be introduced to Microsoft Excel or spreadsheet or Impress, Microsoft Office, software like that. But all those softwares are controlled by a single corporation or a single company. So when you're introducing these softwares to your kids, the kids will only know that software. The kids won't be knowing the alternatives to that software, right? So as the kid grows up and up, as he grows older, he would be only knowing that one particular software, but he doesn't have a control over it. That software can be changed or that software can be modified in any way by the person who is owning that software. So it's like drugs, like you start a drug addiction from a young age, the kid will obviously become a drug addict forever. So why not something like that in software? Like if you addict a person to a software from a very young age, the kid would obviously be addicted to that software, or like the kid won't be, it will be difficult for that person to go back from that software after that kid grows up. So that's basically it. A software is said to be free software or Swadhantra software if it guarantees these 4 freedoms: to run the software, to study how the software works, and to adapt it to your needs. You will be able to modify it. And the next modification is that the freedom to distribute that software to anyone you want to, your friends, your neighbors, your class groups, your classmates. It should be able to be redistributable. And the 4th and final freedom is to you would have the ability to modify the software, and you will be able to redistribute that same software with the modifications to anyone else. So a bit history about how this whole thing came into being. So this is Richard Matthew Stallman. So RMS is the person who started this whole movement. So how this happened in a bit brief historical way is when computers, at the origin of computers in the 1980s, 1970s, everyone would get the software and the source code. That's how it's been. But later, companies and more people started restricting the access to the software, restricting the source code of the software. So there was this operating system called Unix operating system. But Unix operating system was at AT&T, Bell Labs. So it was proprietary software. So there was no way to have the access to source code of Unix. There was no way to modify the source code of Unix to adapt to your needs. And so the GNU project was started. So GNU basically means GNU is not Unix. It's a recursive acronym. So GNU project was started to be a replacement of the Unix operating system, but that entire software would be free software. People could be able to run it, modify it, redistribute it, whatever you want. So the GNU project was started by Richard Matthew Stallman in 1983, this man right here. So after Richard Matthew Stallman founded the thing, there was this new foundation called Free Software Foundation, FSF. So FSF was founded in 1985 to promote free software, to safeguard the freedoms of Swadhantra software. And so people needed a software license. So this thing is called GPL, which is General Public License. So a software would have a license. Let me show you an example. So this is a GitHub. So this is a software that's being made. So if you go, this is the source code of a particular software. So if this is the source code, there's like many C code right here. If you look at some code, oh wait, there's something here. Wait, I think maybe this. There's a lot of code here. So there will be a copyright at the beginning. So this software is licensed under this particular license. So this source code would have a license. So anybody who will be accessing the source code would have to comply with this license. So this is a C sample code, and you can get the full license here, and there will be a license file, and that will have the license. So this software is licensed under GPL, General Public License, which is GPL v3. So the purpose of this license is to enforce those 4 freedoms to everyone who use that software, and that's why it's called free as in freedom. And that's you would have obviously heard the term copyright. So that's the opposite of this thing. It's called copyleft, as in it's a term used to protect the freedoms associated with free software. Like legally, to have that freedom for everyone who uses the software, we have this license. So this is a long license which it will cover all the terms and conditions of how you can use the software. So here you can see You should be able to work the program. So you should have the access to the source code, and so on and on. This is a legal license that this software follows. And why is this important? So if you look at this market right now, Linux operating system is dominating the server market, for example. So that's what's called Linus's law. So before I talk about this quote, I would like to introduce you to Linus Torvalds, who created the Linux kernel. So what is a kernel? So in an operating system, there would be applications, there would be kernel, and that kernel is the one who will be talking to the hardware devices. So CPU, memory, or other external peripheral devices. It will be the kernel that will be talking to the hardware. So kernel is like the lower layer of an operating system. So when the GNU project was started, it was there's all of these tools, like for example, if I can show you in a very practical kind of way, CP is a command used to copy files. So you can copy a file from one place to another place. And this CP command was created by GNU, was in GNU. So if you look at the end of this manual page, you can see that this software was created by Free Software Foundation, and it allows you to rewrite. So this CP tool is part of GNU project. And there are other commands like MV. MV is a command used for moving a file. Or another command is chmod, which is used to change the permissions of a file. There are many commands like this. So one other command is touch. Touch is for using to create a file in our environment. So touch ls, touch my new file. I will get a new file here. If I do ls, you can see my new file here. So I just created a file. So how are these programs made? Touch is a command, CP is a command. So I'm going to see who made touch. So touch is for changing the file times, or you can make a file with it. If you look at the end, the copyright is assigned to FSF, Free Software Foundation. It is part of the GNU Core Utils project. So that's the GNU project. So all these tools, MV, CP, ls, all those commands are part of GNU. But the main part of an operating system, which is the kernel, that wasn't available. That kernel was incompleteness. So in 1991, Linus Torvalds published Linux kernel as a side hobby project. He announced on an internet forum that I made this new project. It's a kernel that I just made out of hobby. And he said initially that it was going to be a serious project, but at the end, the Linux kernel was adopted to GNU, and that's how GNU Linux, the operating system, was born. GNU meaning the components of an operating system like CP, MV, commands like that, with the kernel Linux, and that's how the GNU Linux project was born. That's the operating system. That's how it was born, and that is how that's GNU Linux. Right now, what this is a thing that was a quote that is attributed in this book, The Cathedral and the Bazaar. So the quote means, given enough eyeballs, all bugs. Sorry, what that basically means is that if there are many eyes to the source code, all bugs will be gone. That's basically it. So if I have the source code right here, the software source code, many people will be going through the source code, right? Many people can read the source code. And when they can read the source code, they will be able to fix the bugs. They will be able to find the bugs. So if there are many people looking at a particular software, the bugs will be very, very less. And that's the success of the Linux operating system, the GNU Linux operating system. Because there are many people working on the Linux project, that it's getting very popular, and the bugs can be reduced to a very high end. Here's a good example of this. So initially, Microsoft, being a different operating system, the CEO of Microsoft in 2001 basically said Linux is a cancer, because that's what Microsoft's point at the time. But now Microsoft has entirely changed. Microsoft is one of the top contributors to the Linux kernel. Why? Because Microsoft's cloud business entirely runs on Linux. The server side absolutely dominated by Linux. So there's no way any company can disregard the Linux operating system right now, because since there are many companies working together, the software is very, very advanced. Like multiple people working together on the same software will obviously make it improved, right? So the phones that you use now, Android, that's basically running on Linux. So this operating system that I am working on, this is also Linux. So there's the servers, or this Google Meet that we're talking on right now, it's also running on a Linux server. That's it. So that's basically what I want to cover all about free software and everything. Now there's a quite distinction that I want to note here. So there is free software, so on the software, and then there is open source. So what's the difference? Open source means that the source code would be open, as in the source code would be source code can be made available, but it doesn't mean it should be a software, because to a software to become the free software or a software, they would have to comply with that 4 freedom conditions that I mentioned before. If a software complies with those 4 definitions, it would be a software. A open source software doesn't necessarily be a free software, because just because the source code is open doesn't mean that it will respect the freedoms of a user. So a best scenario is that many companies make software available open, but it doesn't mean that for the main, I can maybe show some examples of this. Maybe let me think of a software. Let's say software. Okay, so WebTorrent is a software that is used to, yeah. So this is a software that is popular. It's called WebTorrent. WebTorrent basically is a software to download torrents, but the license of this is MIT. This means that corporations or very big companies can use the software and doesn't need to give back the software. Like they can take the source code entirely, they can modify the software, and they don't have to release a source code at all. Meaning the improvements that the company made doesn't need to be open source. That means they can just take it and away. So this is a problem currently in the open source world, because many people who works on open source doesn't get the remuneration or doesn't get the revenue from the big corporations who are taking advantage of this all people. So that's the difference. So open source focus on the shared cost of development, as in reducing the cost of making software to build common infrastructure, but doesn't mean that it would respect it doesn't mean that the companies would give back. There is no guarantee over in that. But in free software, there would be guarantee that whoever is using the software or whoever is modifying the software would have to release a source code and thereby improving the whole scenario. So that's the difference between free software and open source. So let's explore some source code. So to exploring source code of different programs that you use, we can use GitHub and GitLab. So let's go over to the source code of Android maybe. So you can just simply search Android source code and you would get the source code of that thing. So here we go. This is the Android open source project. So this is the entire source of the operating system that mostly use. So you will get the source code of Android just like that. Let me get some code. Here's some code. Go to code. Yeah, I just need to directly go to code, right? Okay. So this is loaded, I hope. Yeah. So this is the entire source code of Android. It's a big operating system, right? So there will be many compiled, many things in here, and it would be difficult to get to start where to start and everything else. So let me see some. This is a make file, I think. So there we go. This is one component of a file. So there will be large files like this. You can explore Android's code list like that. Maybe some other softwares that you're maybe commonly using. Yeah. So let me introduce you to. This is a game that I created recently. So it's a game. I hope you have heard about the game Wordle. So Wordle is a word-based game. So each day there will be a word, and the goal is to find a word. So you can just see there will be a word each day, and you would have to find a word. And if the color is green, that means the position of the letter is correct. And if it is yellow, it means the position of the letter is wrong. And then thereby you can just, okay, I'm going to try. The word for today is, I think it's better not to spoil it, right? So I can just try different words, and I can see whether the words are correct. And after, if the word is correct, then I will get a result successful, and I can share that result to someone else. So that's how this game works. The entire source code of this game is available open source. This entire source code is available here. So whenever I make a change to this repository, so this is GitHub. GitHub is the place where source code is shared. So this is a place where software is built. Software source code can be found here. So this is the source code of that game that I built. It's basically HTML, CSS, JavaScript, simple game. So here you can see the source code here. You can also see the answers in it, but I would recommend that. So there is this file, the entire answers of the words are stored in this file, but I wouldn't want you to show that. So That's how it works. So the source code is here. Any change I make will get automatically deployed to this website, and the website will get updated. So that's how this game works. And you can explore source code of these many different projects in these two sites, GitHub, GitLab. You can explore the source code of any software as in any free software as you want. So Debian is an operating system that is free software, entirely free software. They have this very big condition of the software have to be free to be included in their main software center. So this operating system that I'm working on, this is based on Debian. It's Linux Mint. So the philosophy of Debian, the operating system, is everything should be 100% software software. And it's entirely voluntary based. Like people volunteer their time into Debian. Like there are not many people who are paid to work on Debian. So there are many Debian developers all over the world. There are Malayalis in it. There are Indians in it. There are so the entire organization structure of the Debian operating system is purely democratic. Everything is done purely by volunteers. Well, it is the mostly used operating system in server side. Even the International Space Station uses a Debian. Even the NASA, I primarily think NASA also uses Debian primarily a lot. And then many software studios, many different applications of people use Debian. And from Debian, there are many operating systems, and I think many of you have heard about Ubuntu. Ubuntu was built from Debian, and from Ubuntu there are many operating systems as Linux Mint, KDE, Neon, Kubuntu, Subuntu, Edubuntu, Lubuntu. There are many operating systems that was originated from Debian. And then there is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Fedora, and there are thousands more operating systems available made by volunteers. So about Ubuntu, the word Ubuntu means I am because we are. That basically means that I exist in the society because of the people, other people together. So it's a humanity towards others. That's basically the philosophy behind the name Ubuntu, which is also very linked to free software. And okay, so how can you help in free software world? The first thing that you can do is to use free software, find free software, and help others know about this particular free software. The software that respects your freedom. You can always report bugs to these softwares. You can help in documentation, translation, code, etc. And most primarily, you should be able to spread free software to others. That's the main thing, because these softwares doesn't have much money, so you would need word by word way of marketing things. And there are many FOSS communities in India. So I am primarily active in SMC, Swathantra Malayalam Community, and I think maybe you will definitely find SMC's products useful. So there are many Malayalam fonts that you find in trolls, memes, and everything, right? So if you need some good Malayalam fonts, you can always go to SMC fonts, and these are all free software fonts made by SMC. So these are different types of Malayalam fonts available. You can use this to for your own things, memes, documents, anything else. I think many people know SMC, have visited SMC fonts once in a while, like, at least, because there are many. These are primarily main fonts that is being used for free. And another software that works on SMC that I primarily work on is this Malayalam transliteration thing. So when you type something here, you get this transliteration Malayalam, right? So this is a project that I work on personally. It's called Varna. It's for typing Indian languages on computers easily. So let me show you a demo. Like in the game. So this is something that I've been working on for some while now. I'm going to choose Malayalam. I can type here with these, and I can type Malayalam here. I can just copy paste it. Or there is this another option Linux which I can switch to. So I'm going to pick Varnam here, and I can type in system wide. Like I'm going to type Bashir maybe. I can search here. I can type in chat from my system. So these are the components that I work on. These are all free software. You can get the source code of Varnam, the typing tool, everything, source code of everything is free, as in free software. And then later there is KD network, which I'll be talking next. There are other free software communities in Tirunelveli, Kottayam, in different districts too. You can see all of those communities in these links. And yeah, so the next thing that I want to talk about is KD. So KD is a software community that I volunteer to. It's an international software community known for many softwares. You can check out the softwares that KD have here. So KD has many applications. All of these are free software. All of the source code is available for you to discover. What's KD's primary job is KD makes software, KD makes more software, KD makes many more software. So that's basically KD. And all of the software will be free software. KD is for the promotion and freedom, privacy respecting free software applications for the benefit of humanity. That's the main idea of KD. So these are some softwares I think that some of you might find interesting. So Krita is a software for painting. So if there are artists in your circle, you can recommend this software for them. Krita is the #1 currently free as in Saujanya and free as in Swadandra software for painting. Many people actually use Krita for, it's one of the successful free softwares in the world right now. Krita has been used by artists all around the world for painting. So if you have artist friends in your circle, recommend this software to them because this is a really wonderful piece of software. It's available for Windows, Linux, and Mac as well. And the next software that I would recommend you to use is gCombris. So if you have little kids in your home or little kids, tell them this. This is a software that runs on Android. It's on Play Store. It's in Ubuntu. It's in Windows and Mac OS. I'm going to show this demo. Okay, so.
gCombrisലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം. മാതൃക തന്നതുപോലെ വലതുഭാഗത്തായി തൂൺ നിർമ്മിക്കൂ. ശ്രദ്ധിക്കണേ, ചെറിയ തകിടിനു മുകളിൽ വലുത് വെക്കരുത്.
So that's gCombris software. So this software is mostly useful for kids, little kids who are just starting into learning things in schools and everything. So this software is really useful for those little kids. And it's entirely, this thing is in Malayalam. Aishwarya works on this project. Aishwarya is a part of KD community. She works on the entire localization Malayalam part of gCombris software. So this would be a very good, many people doesn't know about this software because as I said before, Swadandra software has a marketing problem. So if you have kids, you should definitely recommend this software. So there are many games like this here and everything is in Malayalam. So that will be very useful for kids to learn about things. So this is about leveling water level and to get this boat to the other side. So that's how, and everything is available in Malayalam too. So that's a good software that I would recommend in KD. And I guess that's it. That's about I have to talk to you about. So that's the world of free software, and I just showed you a glimpse of it. Yeah. So if you have any questions, be sure to ask me. And if you can't now, you can always follow me at these places, and you can ask me questions as well. Thank you.
So you may ask your doubts to the speaker. I hope there are no doubts, so we can continue with the vote of thanks. So let me welcome Abhini for the vote of thanks.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, respected Dean R&D Dr. Anishin Raj sir, HOD of CSC, Amlosing sir. Good evening, everyone. It has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful event. On behalf of this occasion, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our resource person, Mr. Subin Sibi, for his excellent coverage in the topic free and open source softwares. With your class, everyone present here was able to invest their time properly with the knowledge you have shared. I also extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Anil sir and Amlosin sir for their presence. With a great sense of appreciation, I also thank our faculty coordinators, Ms. Riti Jacob and Ms. Betsy Glitters, who have been very supportive. I also thank the student coordinators of this program, Soil Sunny and Sandbaby Francis. I also extend my sincere gratitude to all the faculties who are present here. Finally, I would like to thank each and every person present here for making this event a great success. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Abhini. Please note that certificates will be provided to everyone who have joined the meeting. So a link to the Google form is provided in the chat section. So make sure you fill the form within 10 to 15 minutes. After that, we'll stop accepting responses. So thank you all for joining.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, San, I'm leaving now. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Subin.
Okay, thank you, Zeta.
Bye.
സാൻ ഒരു 15 minutes കഴിഞ്ഞ് മീറ്റിംഗ് എൻഡ് ചെയ്താൽ പോരെ?
Miss.